If you start to explore the reasons why Rolex are so popular and successful today as a brand, one of the many reasons is the history of the brand that is close to a century. A history of timeless watch designs, reliable and durable watches that last for generations. Talk about Rolex Submariner, Rolex GMT, Datejust, Daytona, or even Oyster Perpetual. They are all models with a long legacy and history in decades, with proven workmanship and functionality in the most severe environments. Now when you look at the Rolex Skydweller, it actually doesn't have as long history as some of the other models I mentioned earlier. In fact, the Rolex Skydweller is hardly a decade-old watch, as it was originally only released in 2012. So what exactly makes the Skydweller so popular and sought after that it pretty much contends with the Rolex Submariner, GMT or Daytona? Let's look into it. In this video, I will not just be talking about Skydweller in general, rather this particular model in Everose Gold and Slate Dial 2. Starting off with why Rolex Skydweller is so popular, there are multiple reasons for it. Firstly, it is the most complicated Rolex Oyster Perpetual watch to exist, which shows you not just the date and the time on the dial, but a second time zone too. And then it is an annual calendar watch, meaning it even shows you the month of the year on the dial. But how exactly it shows the month is even more interesting. There's 12-hour indices in a watch dial, and coincidentally, there's also 12 months in a year. Now this idea, unsure why no one ever thought about it, is best used by Rolex. And if you see just above the 11 o'clock hour marker, there is a red dot that represents the 11th month of the year, being November. Talk about intelligent design and seamless execution, where the dial shows the month of the year when you want to see it, and it doesn't really show you when you don't want to see it or don't need it. Another reason why the Skydweller is so popular is its size and overall aesthetics. History has told us that Rolex have been continuously increasing the sizes of their watches historically. Talk about Datejust, Oyster Perpetual or even Submariner, and they have all been upsized. And then the Skydweller was originally released in a 42mm case size and a slightly chunkier case. And this was not to just bridge the gap between a typical 40 and a 44mm Rolex model, but it also offered a more modern size with classic Datejust-like aesthetics. This particular model comes in Everose Gold, and with that slate grey dial, it's one of the most stunning Rolexes in Everose Gold to be had, to say the least. The Everose Gold is loud when it's meant to be, and it's subtle when you compare it to yellow gold. Speaking about the size, measured at the bezel, the Skydweller is 40.7mm watch, and going by the size of the crystal or the dial, it is 32.7mm, so it doesn't look all that large or big in general. But the watch has lug-to-lug of 50mm, so it does indeed wear larger on the wrist than the Rolex Submariner, GMT or Datejust. I will discuss this in a little more detail in the wrist shot shortly. The watch comes with a beautifully sunburst slate dial, and the brush lines are beautifully defined that help the dial play with the light magically and change its color. The hour markers are well executed and come with chamfered edges that add to the beauty and brilliance of the watch. If you're wondering how can you operate this watch given that it has no pushers, rather just one crown, it is again an intelligent move by Rolex. And this is where the fluted bezel here is not just an aesthetical element, rather it's a practical and functional component. When you pull the crown out, it takes the watch to winding position, and then all you need to do is to pull it one more step back, and then every function becomes available by turning the bezel by one step. As you turn the bezel, This allows you to change the local time, and then the GMT time, and then the date of the watch either way. Yes, you can move the date forward or backward, and this is how advanced and modern this watch is. You can't adjust the month by bezel, so you'll have to cycle the date all the way through to set the date. Incredible how Rolex conceived and executed delivering the full functionality of annual calendar watch by just one crown and no other pushers. On the wrist, the Skydweller in Everose gold and Slate dial wears beautifully and very differently to how the standard steel model in blue dial wears or looks. This watch is heavy, and it is meant to be a heavy watch. With all links on, the watch weighs 242 grams. So it is not a light watch, and you wouldn't buy a gold watch if you wanted a lighter watch either. It is also thick and chunkier watch, but in a beautiful way. The watch case is 13.8mm without the Cyclops lens. The bracelet is 21mm at the case, and it tapers down beautifully to 15.3mm, giving it a nice dressy vibe. My wrist size for reference is 6.5 inches, and the wristband is 55mm. So while my wrist is on the smaller side, you can see that I can pull it off easily and without any problems, and I personally wouldn't be reluctant in wearing, owning or enjoying it. And while the Skydweller itself is an icon in the making, with its demand arguably higher than some of the most sought after Rolexes, in this Everose and Slate gold, you don't see them every day. It is special and it is spectacular, and above all, it is Rolex's most complicated watch with the right amount of bling for luxury and prestige.